Sir, you're not audible, sir.
Now am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. So I'll start over again. Okay. Okay. So we'll start with photo detector noise. So till now we have done the sources, that is LED or laser, and we've done the detectors in the last two lectures, that is the pin diode or the APD. Now what we want to see is whether these photo detectors do they have a noise of their own. For example, if we take a fiber, now this fiber has its own attenuation, we are aware of that, and it also leads to dispersion with the length. So if I increase the length, then the dispersion is also going to increase, right? So in general, the fiber is not an ideal device or component, right? It has its own error. It will introduce its own error, right? So to be more clear, if we insert a bit which is rectangular, because of dispersion, it may look like that. So it may just extend beyond the bit period which is given to the initial bit. Right? So likewise, the photo detectors also introduce their own noises, and we need to understand what are the requirements of the photo detector, right? So if we just look at the system in general, the optical system, so you have the source, we'll have the fiber, right? And we're going to have the detector, right? So what we can understand here is, once the input is there, right, this input, because of the source, because of the error in the source, this input is going to be weakened or decreased in its amplitude or strength, as we call it. Then that input is going to pass through the optical fiber, and the optical fiber will introduce its attenuation and dispersion. Therefore, the signal, the light that we receive here at the input of the detector, it is very weakened. So by weakened, we mean its amplitude level will be very, very low. So what we require from the photodiode or the photodetector is to detect very weak optical signals. These are very weak optical signals, and the detection of the weakest possible signal it requires that the photodetector and the following circuit, which will be the receiver here, okay, which we will discuss later on. So both the detector as well as the receiver circuit, right, they need to be optimized so that we maintain or get what is known as a desired quality of service, right? So what is this quality of service? So as a customer, we always look for a quality of service. So if I've spent 5 rupees on something, right, some commodity, I expect that I get quality which is at least equal to that 5 rupees. If I get more, I'll be more than happy, but at least I should get that much, right? So in terms of that's a very layman way of understanding QoS. But in terms of communication, QoS basically is getting the desired signal to noise ratio or getting the desired bit error rate, right? So I want this bit error rate to be as small as possible. That means there should not be any errors in the bit at all. If I'm sending ones, it should just be detected as ones. If I keep sending zeros, then it should be just zero. The signal to noise ratio, it's a ratio of signal power to noise power. So I want this to be as high as possible. That means the noise power should be very low, or ideally it should not be there only. So I will get an infinite signal to noise ratio, but the noise level should be low, and the signal power should be very, very high. That's why when the signal starts to weaken, we always tend to use an amplifier, right? So I've been saying from the start, in any communication, sending the message, transmitting the message is very, very simple. However, the reception is very, very difficult, because the receiver design has to be done understanding that the detection will be of very, very weak signals, right? So to achieve a very high signal to noise ratio, right, we have already discussed that the photo detector needs to have very high quantum efficiency so that it can generate very high signal power. The detector noise, and later on we'll discuss the amplifier noise, they themselves should be kept as low as possible, right? So it may come as a surprise to you, what is this amplifier noise, right? So we'll discuss that. So amplifiers are also not ideal devices, they have noises of their own, right? So we need these noises to be as low as possible. So there are different kinds of noises that would add to a particular system, right? And so we should discuss those noises. There are many in nature actually, but the ones defined in your syllabus, will stick to that. These are the most common type of noises. So just to give you a glimpse of how this circuitry will look like. So you have the fiber, right? So I'm not drawing the source part. This is the source. So from the fiber you get the light, and this light is going to fall. So you'll have a resistance, you'll have a ground here, then you have a resistance, and then this light is going to fall on a photodiode, right? So you have this light falling on the photodiode, and then we are going to, of course, bias the photodiode. So this will be the bias voltage. They work in the reverse bias direction, in the reverse bias mode. And from here, then we will have the amplifier. So this amplifier is then going to move to the output, right? And there are other circuits as well. So this is what is the diagram, and the photodetector has to deal with the photons, which are very weakened in the sense their amplitude is very, very less, right? So what are the sources of this noises, right? So the basic source of noise is what is known as the quantum noise, right? The other popular name is short noise. So we'll represent this mathematically. The second is uh, dark current. This is usually very negligible. It is generated when there is absolutely no power given to the system, but there is still some noise, right? So it is like device charging even when you have switched the switch off, right? So there's some amount of charge still there. And then there is another, usually a negligible current, which is known as the surface leakage current. Surface leakage current, right? So these are some of the important noises that would occur the in the system, and the most common, right? So in general, the most important would be the short noise, the dark current, and the dark current and the surface leakage current are usually negligible. And the fourth one, actually this is the most important, but I thought I'll mention it towards the end. It is known as thermal noise, also sometimes known as Johnson noise. And this is usually the noise because of change in noise arising due to change in the temperature. So if a device is kept in a room temperature, it works in a different way. If it is working in a very heated condition, outside temperature is too much, then it works in a different way. So that leads to thermal noise, right? So in general, these noises, all these noises, uh, they are Gaussian in nature. And since they are Gaussian in nature, their their mean square value, the mean square error value, right? Or I'll just write it as their mean square value is which is denoted as sigma square, can just be added. So the total noise power, right, in the presence of all these noises just becomes, let's say, sigma square short, that is because of the short noise, sigma square thermal, that is noise due to that is power due to thermal noise, plus if you have the dark current or surface leakage current, you can also add them. So that sigma square denotes the mean square value, and you must know from first year and even school that if you take the square root of that sigma square, you'll end up with the standard deviation, right? So this mean square error is the one that really defines the noise power. So in general, the signal to noise ratio will be the signal power divided by the noise power, and you can always get the signal power as the average power or mean power, and we have seen how we can get that in any photo detector. So you can always get this as P in. If the detector has a responsivity, it will become R into P in. The noise power will just become the addition of all the noises which are present. So you can have sigma square short plus sigma square thermal plus any other sigmas, any other noise which you have. So all of this works if we assume a Gaussian model, and you must know from statistics that as you keep doing more and more experiments, all the different probability distribution functions PDFs will tend towards a Gaussian PDF. That is what is known as the central limit theorem, the CLT. So all your PDFs will tend towards the Gaussian PDF, right? So that is what we are assuming here. Of course, we're not going to have the statistics part. It has already been covered for you in lower semesters. But what we do have is how do we calculate this signal to noise ratio given certain parameters there, right? So for that, we first need to know how we could write this. What are the mean square error values for the different noises. Okay? So first we'll take the short noise. So this short noise or quantum noise, this is basically, it is static. It is nothing but the statistical nature of producing and then collecting of photoelectrons when optical signal is going to fall on the photodetector. So this short noise current will have a mean square value. This is dependent on the bandwidth over which the receiver is going to operate. And this is given as, so we'll denote this as sigma square short, right? That is the subscript. And this is given as 2 into Q, which is the charge on the electron, IP, which is the current, photocurrent, B subscript E, which is the bandwidth of the receiver. And then sometimes you could have a gain or a multiplication factor M square, and sometimes you could have f of m, which is known as the noise figure, right? And this m here is a multiplication factor. So this is the mean square noise value for short noise. Generally we'll be using the equation 2q IPBE because it is not going to have gain and the noise figure, but that depends on the numerical. Okay. The next is the thermal noise. We are not deriving these equations. For these, we'll have to go into random variables concept of CDF and PDF and then do it. So we'll save that. This is the end result which we are using, right? So then you have the sigma square thermal, and since this is dependent on the temperature, the result for this is 4 KT. Erase that. So we have 4 KTB divided by R. Right? I'll write this as BE. So sigma square thermal is dependent on the load resistance which we use, in the value of the circuit. Okay, just give me a moment. So that RL there is the load resistance which we would use in the receiver circuit. K is the Boltzmann's constant. T is of course the temperature, and this temperature needs to be in Kelvin, right? This needs to be in Kelvin. So if nothing is given about the temperature, if it's room temperature, we can assume it. So it will be 293 Kelvin. And B is the bandwidth over which this receiver is going to operate. Right? And then there is of course the dark current and the surface leakage current. So this dark current is dark current will be in the form of almost in the form of the short noise. So this dark current here will be almost like the short noise or the short current, and this will be 2q ID instead of IP. We'll have ID, that is the dark current, and then the bandwidth BE. You could also have gain factor M and F of M, that is the noise factor. Okay, so that we'll have to see in the numericals, right? So usually these noises, the dark current and the surface leakage current, these would be you know very negligible. So overall the noise power, okay, which is dominated by the short noise and the thermal noise. So sigma square n total one will be sigma square s for short and sigma square t for thermal will look like this. We'll have 2q I. If we include the dark current also, I can write this as IP plus ID because the other factors are the same, right? Plus 4kT BE divided by R, right? So you can see what I've done in the first term. In the first term, I've just added that dark current ID because the other parts are same as the short noise, right? So this would be the noise power that we'll have, right? And of course, we can always find the signal power, the average signal power, which needs to come in the numerator, right? So like this, we could use the we could use these equations to solve for various problems. So let's look at one of the problems. I'll take a problem from the book itself, or let me open the book. John Senior has many books, many numericals, which we could solve. John Senior also solves many numericals, so we'll be able to understand how exactly to calculate the signal to noise ratio, and how to calculate the noise variances. These are known as the variances. Okay, so let me open one numerical. There is mostly always a numerical on this to calculate the signal to noise ratio. Okay, and sometimes they ask you to explain the various noises. Okay, just trying to open a numerical. In fact, Gerd Kaiser also solves some numericals, but it assumes that you know most of the communication part. Okay, it's a little bit complicated, not suggested so much for the beginners. Okay, so I'm just trying to see what numerical we can solve. Okay, so there's nothing in Gerd Kaiser. Let me just look into John Senior. Okay. So once you know the equations, it's very simple to solve these problems. So just give me one moment. I'll just open the page where the numerical is. Okay, so this is already posted on your the book is already there in the MS Teams group, so you can always look at it. Okay. So let us take a simpler one first, and then we'll go with the complicated one. Okay. So the question is, a silicon pin photodiode uh, incorporated into an optical receiver has a quantum efficiency of 60%. So I'm just writing the parameters. So it has a quantum efficiency of 60% when operating at a wavelength of 0.9 micrometer. The dark current in the device at this operating point is 3 nanoamperes. So the dark current sigma square d ID is 3 nanoampere, and the load resistance RL is 4 kilo. Okay. Next parameters are the incident optical power at this wavelength is 200 nanowatts, and the post detection bandwidth of the receiver is 5 megahertz. compute the short noise generated in the photodiode and the thermal noise at temperature of 20 degree centigrade, right? So all we have to do is we need to find the short noise value and the thermal noise value. So we'll first write those values, those equations, and see what is missing for us, right? So if I want to find sigma square short, the equation is 2q ip be, right? And since dark current is there, so I can write the dark current as 2q idbe, right? So we know q because it's a constant. We know be, it is given that the post detection bandwidth is 5 megahertz, so we have the value of be. We know id, which is given to us as 3 nano amperes. However, we do not know ip, that is the photon current, right, which is generated. But what we know from photodetector, it's a pin photodetector. We know the equation relating quantum efficiency with the photon current, and that is ip is eta pq divided by hf, right? We can also write this in the form of wavelength. So it will be eta pq, eta pq, denominator will be hc by lambda. So I'll take the lambda on the numerator. So this is the IP that we can have. So here we know eta, which is 60%. We know the value of P, which is given to us as 200 nanowatts. That 200 nanowatt is the incident optical power. So we know that, right? We know Q, we know lambda. Lambda is given to us as 0.9 micrometer. We know H, we know C. So this way we can calculate IP. Once we can calculate IP, we'll get the value of the short noise, right? So this is this is the manner in which we can find short noise. Regarding thermal noise, the equation is 4kTb by RL. So here everything is given to us. K is a constant, Boltzmann constant. T is the temperature, and it is 20 degree centigrade, but this needs to be in Kelvin, right? So that temperature in Kelvin will be approximately 293 Kelvin. B is given to us 5 megahertz, and we are also given the load resistance RL, so 4 kilo. So all we have to do is just substitute and get the answers, right? So please go ahead and calculate this short noise and the thermal noise. So what we need is this value, sigma square short, how much is that, and sigma square thermal, how much is that, right? And then just compare what is the difference, or what is the what you can understand from it. Because I'll just give you a moment, you can go ahead and solve it. Okay, so I'm also calculating.
So sigma square short 1.39 into 10 raised to minus 19.
Yeah, about that. I get about 1.41. So that is an approximation, but 1.4 into 10 raised to negative 19.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Yeah. So sigma square short we get as 1.4 into 10 raised to negative 19, and this is ampere square. Therefore, we need to find the standard deviation. So that will give us ampere. So we just have to find the square root of this. So I get about 3.8 into 10 raised to minus 10 amperes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So likewise, we'll see what value we get for sigma square thermal, and then we'll square it to get sigma thermal. So I get about 2 into 10 raised to negative 17. The K value is 1.38 into 10 raised to negative 23. Temperature is there, B is there. I think, yeah. Now we can calculate. RL is 4 kilo ohm. Okay, yeah, I get 2 into 10 raised to negative 17.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then I get about 4.5. When I find the square root, I get 4.5 into 10 raised to negative 9.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so you can see the difference between the two noises also. One is what is happening with the thermal noise and what is the short noise. Right? So these noises will always be there, and we need to find ways to, you know, design our systems around these noises or in the presence of these noises. Okay, so uh, now let's look at another one. Yeah, there is another factor which comes in is to design or have the value of RL, the load resistance, right? So for that, the usual circuit from electronics which we use, right? So you'll have the diode here, okay, and then you will have the capacitance, you'll have the load resistance, and then you'll have another capacitance, and then finally this will all go towards an amplifier. So this is the basic circuit that we have from electronics. So this will, the photon will impinge here, and then this is the CD, this is the RL, and this is some CA, right? So these will be this is the basic design of any electronics part of the detection that we are taking, where you have CD and CA, where CD is the detector capacitance, and CA is the capacitance related to the amplifier input capacitance, right? So this D belongs to the, is related to the photodetector, and this CA is related to the amplifier. So if I want to find the total bandwidth, maximum bandwidth, we know that this bandwidth is nothing but 1 by 2 pi RL CD, right? So RL will be the load resistance, and D is because of the detector capacitance that we are having. However, since we have the amplifier also, therefore we can update this equation and write this as 1 by 2 pi RL CD plus CA. Right? So this will give us the total bandwidth of this receiver, right? Or considering both the detector as well as the amplifier circuit. Right? So very simple question can also be on the design. So I've solved that in the notes, and I've also put in videos on that. So you can just look at this. But this is the most common kind of circuit that you could have to include both the optical part, which is the detector, and the electrical part which follows it in the amplifier, right? So the numerical which we have just solved, it takes into consideration that the detector is a pin detector, right? So we really don't have to worry about the the multiplication factor, so to say, right? So we didn't have to worry about the current being multiplied or anything like that, right? There was no question of that. It's just a pin photo detector, right? However, if we use a detector which is uh, you know uh, an avalanche photo detector, then what changes would happen? And the change is obvious, that we are going to have a multiplication factor in that, right? So let us look at the equations uh, when the detector is an APD, that is an avalanche photo detector, right? So the reason why we get a change is because if you look at the equation for the short noise and the thermal noise, specifically the short noise, nothing is going to happen to the thermal noise, right? This will remain the same, but the short noise and dark current will change because they both are related to this current I, right? And we know that when we use an APD, the current is going to multiply. So there's going to be an alteration in those equations, but the thermal noise, as you can see, is independent of the current. So thermal noise remains the same. Nothing happens to it whether you're using a pin diode or an APD diode, right? So we want to calculate this equation, the signal to noise equation, signal to noise ratio equation, when the photodetector is an APD, right? So in that case, if we take the short noise, the sigma square short will have 2q and the bandwidth BE, right? However, what is going to happen to the photocurrent IP is it's going to multiply, right? And we'll have a factor of m here. Okay, we'll have a factor of m here, right? However, when we find the signal to noise ratio, which is signal power, right? So signal power is always going to be IP square, right? And since in the photo detector we have IP multiplying with m, it becomes m IP square. Therefore, I'm going to write this as m square IP square, right? And you are going to have the noises, which is 2q BE IP m plus the thermal noise, which is 4kTB divided by R. Right? Now what happens to this m value? This m value will have a square because of the numerator, because you are having a square value here, right? So you have m square. However, we also need to have to what extent it is going to affect the noise. Therefore, we have a factor m raised to x. This x value here, this x value here will let us know by how much this noise is increasing. What is the excess noise? So this m raised to x is known as the excess noise factor. Excess noise factor, right? Therefore, we can now rewrite this equation as m square IP square divided by 2q BE. Now I'll also include the dark current. It has the same equation. So you'll have IP plus ID, and you have m raised to, now I'll include that m square and x together. So you'll have m raised to 2 plus x, m raised to 2 plus x, and you have 4k dB divided by R. Right? So this will be the equation for the signal to noise ratio when we are using an APD. Right? Now let's adjust this equation a little bit in terms of getting the m factor. So I'll take that m square in the denominator. So I'll have IP square left in the numerator, and then I have 2q BE into IP plus ID. Since I'm going to have m square, m raised to minus 2 in the denominator now, so that will cancel with m raised to 2, and I'll only be left with m raised to x plus 4kTB by RL, and I'll have m raised to minus 2, m raised to minus 2, right? So now our job is to get this equation in the form of m raised to some x, so that we can actually calculate the value of x, right? So we can adjust this equation in the form of signal to noise ratio, okay, and we can try and get that answer, okay. So if I want to calculate this m raised to 2 by x, or let me write it this way, uh, I can write this as 2q BE IP plus ID m raised to x, right? And this I'll divide by the 4k TB by RL into m raised to minus 2, right? And this will happen when I get 2 by x. Okay, so this is nothing but when the signal to noise ratio is maximum, and in that case the signal and noise power will cancel each other, right? So in that case I am calling this m raised to x in the numerator as the optimal multiplication factor, where SNR is 1. That means uh, S equal to N. So the signal power is good enough to cancel all the noises, right? So from here we can find the value of the optimum multiplication factor, and that we get as, if I take the 2 plus x there, 4kt divided by x q RL into ID IP plus ID. So this is the manner in which we can calculate the optimal multiplication factor. Okay, so obviously we should be given this value of x, which is the excess noise factor, right? And once that is given, then we can always go ahead and find this equation. Okay, so there are numericals based on that. We'll have to be very clear as to which kind of photo detector is being used. Okay, and then based on that we can calculate the various values. Okay, so I've put in some numericals in the notes. Those are the easier ones. Let's look at one numerical. Okay, so there's nothing more as such in theory and mathematics in this part, that is photo detector noise. The only thing that we need to do is to solve the numericals. Okay, so I'll pick one numerical. So this is based on APD. Okay, so a silicon APD. So we have an APD, and X is 0.3, has capacitance. So it has a capacitance. I'll write this CD because it is for the detector capacitance. It is 5 picofarad. Negligible dark current. Okay, and it is operating with at a post detection bandwidth of 50 megahertz. When the photocurrent before the gain, is 10 raised to negative 7 ampere, temperature is 18 degrees centigrade, determine the maximum SNR for m equal to 1 and m equal to m optimal, assuming all the conditions are maintained, right? So what we need to calculate is, based on this m equal to 1 and m equal to optimal m, we need to calculate how the SNR has improved, right? When I have m equal to 1, has it improved? When I have m equal to optimum m, has it improved? That is what we need to calculate here. Okay, so m equal to 1 basically corresponds to the pin diode. That means the multiplication factor is just 1. So it is just a simple pin diode, right? Now what we need is to calculate the signal to noise ratio, for which we need the signal power, right? And we need the noise power. So signal power is nothing but IP, and you square it. So you have IP square, and you have the noise power. So that will be sigma square short plus sigma square thermal, right? So you have IP square. You are given the value of IP. Sigma square short is 2Q IP into BE plus sigma square thermal is 4KTB divided by R, right? So we have the value of IP, we have the value of B bandwidth. The only value which we do not have is RL, but that can be easily found because capacitance is given. So RL is nothing but 1 by 2 pi CD B. Now, please note here, nothing is specified about the amplifier, so we are not adding CA here, right? So once you do that, then you can easily get what is the value of RL here, right? So in the first step, calculate the value of RL, okay, using 1 by 2 pi CD into B. See what answer you get there, and then use this equation here to calculate the signal to noise ratio, right? So you can go ahead and find the signal to noise ratio. So I'll give you the steps. First, you let me know what is RL. Second, you let me know what short noise you get here, right? Third, you let me know what thermal noise you get here, and then finally we'll calculate the signal to noise ratio, right? Please don't find the square root. We need a sigma square short and sigma square thermal. So we need to calculate these values. So signal to noise ratio, we know already IP, so 10 raised to minus 7, and you'll square it. Now we need these two values, square short and thermal. So just take a minute and see what answer you get here.
So RL is 636.6.
Done the short noise, just check.
So 4.8 into 10 raised to minus 11.
No, have you found the square root or you've just left it like that? We don't need the square root, we need only sigma square. So I have this 1.6 into 10 raised to negative 18 ampere square.
So IP is 10 raised to minus 7, no sir?
Let me check. Yeah. So you'll have 2 into 1.6 into 10 raised to negative 19 into 50 into 10 raised to 6 into 10 raised to minus 7.
Yes sir, I got 4.8 into 10 raised to minus 11.
No, you can't get 4 because see, you have 2, then you have 50. No, you'll get 1.6 only. Check again. See, this is the
Yes.
sigma square short. So 2 into 1.6 into 10 raised to negative 19 into 50 into 10 raised to 6 into 10 raised to minus 7, right? So this 2 and this 50 will just give you 100. So 1.6 10 raised to minus 19 into 100 into 10 raised to 6 into 10 raised to minus 7. So this will just be 1.6, and you have yeah, just these powers you have to adjust. 26, 20, 18, yeah, into 10 raised to minus 18. Check.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Yeah.
I took it 10 minus 1.
Okay. Okay, we are getting the answer. Okay. Okay. Next is the thermal noise. So that you'll have 4 into 1.38 into 10 raised to negative 23 into temperature. So it is 18 degrees. So we'll take 291 into 50 into 10 raised to 6. And the RL we calculated was 636.6.
So 1.26 into 10 raised to minus 15.
So yeah, I get 1.26 into 10 raised to minus 15. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we have the equation for signal to noise ratio there. So all you have to do is just add the denominator and then divide that numerator and denominator. We'll get an answer. So that 10 raised to minus 7 square I'll replace and write it 10 raised to minus 14. So we'll get, if I cancel the 10 raised to minus 14, I'll get 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 4 plus 1.26 into 10 raised to minus 1. That's all. So, so that
So
second,
7.9.
yeah, so around 7.9,
Yes, sir.
right? And if I want to find signal to noise ratio in dB, I'll do 10 log to the base 10 of 7.9, because usually signal to noise ratio is in decibels. So we get about 9 decibels approximately.
Yes, sir. 8.9.
Yeah. So that means when we are using a pin diode, with no multiplication, that when M is 1, the signal to noise ratio that we get is 90. Right. Now we should repeat this process and try to find the signal to noise ratio when we are using an APD, and that multiplication factor is optimal multiplication factor, and we are given X, that is the excess factor, as 0.3. So for that we need to find the signal to noise ratio, and obviously we are expecting that it will be much higher than this 9 decibels. Only then it makes sense to use the APD. So that is the idea. I hope that now it becomes clear to you what is the difference between the two. Okay. So that you can try out, and we'll also solve it. We'll also solve it in the next class. But if you try out and come with the answer, then we can match the answers. Okay, because there's not much time to do that. Okay. So in the next class, I'll be solving that numerical. There will be one more numerical which I'll be doing, and then we'll talk about the optical receiver, that is the amplifier, equalizer, and so on, and that will end this particular module.